This is WhyBeAre with BeamNG.drive, and today we're going to do something dumb. The first thing we need to do is decide on a vehicle. So we need something that's either front-wheel drive, or all-wheel drive, or rear engine, rear-wheel drive. Those are basically the three options. So I'm going to go with a Gravel D Series D35 Beast, because this thing is all-wheel drive and it's longer. And a longer vehicle might be more fun in this situation. I also got in this nice bright yellow color so you can see it from space. It's so big and so bright. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to park it next to the corner of a building as close as we can. So that's pretty good. And then we need to flip it onto its side using the node grabber. So I'm going to make sure I grab it by the body of the vehicle itself and not from the step piece or the door, because I'll just rip those off probably. And I'm going to go ahead and put this thing onto its side by just slowly increasing the node strength. There we go. Vehicle is on the side. We'll go ahead and save that spot just in case things don't go according to plan. And the next thing we need to do is find a node on the front of the vehicle that's really sturdy, so that looks good. And then we're going to pull this node about 1,000 newtons or so along the side of the building, like so. And then we need to do the same to the other side of the vehicle. So I'm going to find a real sturdy place like the tow hitch and pull this thing along about 1,000 newtons. That's close enough to 1,000. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and increase the strength little by little. So we're at 10%, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70. Let's just go all the way up to 100. And then we reduce the strength. Well, actually, we'll just remove them completely and get the vehicle back up onto its wheels and see what it looks like. Oh, that looks perfect. The vehicle has been bent, and somehow the drive shaft is still intact to the rear wheels. That I really did not expect. If you can do that consistently with a rear-wheel drive vehicle, then you can even do rear-wheel drive vehicles for this. But I chose one that was all-wheel drive, so that way if the rear drive shaft broke, we would still have front-wheel drive. Anyways, as you can see, this thing drives fine. We're up to almost 100 miles per hour, which means we should get some good airtime on this bump, and maybe that landing will actually straighten out the vehicle some and make it look more normal. Let's find out. Landing the vehicle. Ooh, the rear drive shaft broke. That I did not expect. Also, we're going way too fast here to actually make it around this corner because we were flying through the air. Doing the best I can, which, well, actually, that was not half bad at saving it. Yeah, we did have a tire get deflated, but overall, we still got a drivable vehicle. It's only front-wheel drive, though, because of the jump itself. So it's gonna struggle, and it's also almost out of fuel because when I was doing the initial bending, it ruptured the fuel tank. And we're gonna run out of fuel, well, we just did. The engine is dead, and we can just coast until the engine decides to just die completely. So there is a look at the damage on my banana, and then we can go ahead and reset it. And since I saved the spot, it's already lined up to go for another bend test, and it really doesn't take long to set it up once you have it lined up. So we can just grab one node, put it out to about 1,100 newtons, and then we'll just do the same to this one. All that really matters is they're about the same. It doesn't even have to be that accurate, just in the same zone. So that should be good. And then we're gonna bend this one fast instead of going gradual. We're just gonna go 100%, which might just break it completely. I'm not really sure. Let's find out. We have just the fuel tank rupturing again, and that's it. It really didn't look much different, even though it's so hard and fast. We still even have the rear drive shaft working fine, and drivability is gonna be the same as last time. Actually, you know what? This one is definitely bent more than last time now that I look at it. It is bent so hard, both the front and rear bumper are scraping, which actually means the wheels aren't touching the ground sometimes. That right there was the wheels aren't really touching the ground. It just spun out for no reason, basically. I really, really wish the fuel tank wasn't rupturing, though, because that does limit how far I can drive this thing, because it is leaking fuel fast. Now that I think about it, there's no visual indicator for when you're leaking fuel. All that happens is the amount of fuel in your fuel gauge goes down ridiculously fast. And this thing is completely uncontrollable because the front and rear are scraping. So I'm wondering if I could tear off the bumpers. The rear, that's not going to work because there's a trailer hitch in the rear. But what about the front bumper? If we tear that off, will that make it more drivable? Oh, come on. Bumper, you need to go off of the vehicle. There we go. And I don't know. It was too late. The fuel has run out. So here's a look at the damage on my even more curvy banana than before. And then we can reset it. And we're going to try this one more time. If fuel tank breaks again, I do know of a workaround. It's not ideal, but it'll work. So grab this node and bring it up to about 1,000, just as before. And also, I should mention, on the front of the vehicle, we have two nodes that are right next to each other right here. This one is the front bumper. This one is the frame. You would think it'd be the other way around because this one's closer to the frame and this one's closer to the bumper. But no, this is the one you want. Because if you grab the bumper, it'll just tear it right off and it won't be nearly as fun if that happens. So bring that one to about 1,000. And then here we go. crunch the vehicle, uncrunch the vehicle, get the nodes off, and then we get it upright. Now, I do notice, once again, the fuel tank has ruptured, and it really just depends on what vehicle you use, I think. I don't think every vehicle is going to have the fuel tank rupture because not every vehicle has the fuel tank in the same spot. So this thing right now, it can drive. We have all-wheel drive. This is a very good condition for the vehicle to be in. So we're going to save the vehicle right now. And yes, it's leaking fuel and it'll run out very, very soon. The good news is, though, is when you save a vehicle, it doesn't actually save how much fuel the vehicle has. It does save the fact that the fuel tank is leaking, but when you reset the vehicle and then reload it, you will have a full tank of fuel. So that's pretty convenient, I think. And trying to drive this thing, it drives okay. It's not great. I'm going to tell you now, it's not great because it's very, very slippery. Like, look how easily I can spin this thing around, no problem. And that's mostly because the trailer hitch is digging into the ground a little bit, and so is the rear bumper. And all that scraping just means there's not a lot of weight on the rear wheels, and it makes it hard to control. And we have now ran out of fuel. So here is the solution to this. Now, you don't need to spawn up a new vehicle, but I'm going to go ahead and clone this vehicle because it'll make things a little bit easier in the long run for me. So we clone the vehicle, then we load the setup, which actually spawns it underground a little bit. So we'll move it over here so it's not underground. And then we have a full tank of gas and we can continue driving this thing like nothing happened. And it doesn't matter when you save the setup as far as I know. Like if you run out of gas and then save the setup and reload it, it should give you a full tank of gas. And you can tell when this thing becomes out of control because it leaves all those sparks behind it. Like I'm doing my best to try to keep this thing going, but it's not easy when it's sliding all over the place, man. We did just lose the rear bumper though, so that might make things a little bit easier. We still have sparks coming off of the vehicle, but those are coming from other parts of the vehicle, and then also, of course, the tail hitch, which is always going to make a mess of things. So how about we go ahead and just wreck this thing up? We're going to try to get it over the edge of this. Beautiful. And it landed. Okay. Is it going to land on its wheels? No, it is not. It almost rolled over on its wheels, but just barely didn't make it, so I'll reload it. Ooh, you know what? This gave me a fun idea. What if we place it where the truck is on both sides of this at the same time? It's stuck. It's completely stuck. There's no way for me to get out of this. Oh, now it's on fire for some reason too. Okay. That I did not foresee coming. I foresaw it getting stuck. Fire, no. So bring it out. And I just had another dumb idea I want to test. So I'm going to reset the vehicle and then load up the configuration. And then we're going to lower the gravity to try to straighten the vehicle back out. So if we accelerate a little bit, does that do anything? Okay. It actually works. That's excellent. So then we go back to Earth gravity. Well, it's still bent a little bit. So we'll go way down on the gravity this time, all the way down to the minimum, very slowly because I don't want to break nothing. And back to Earth. And it looks a little bit flatter still, but it still has some curve to it. It's still drivable, but it still has some curve to it. So we're going to go real hard on this one, just straight to sun. That crunches it. But look at how flat it is. That actually worked decently well. You would not know this thing was shaped like a banana just a few minutes ago. And we can keep on driving a little bit more. We still have some fuel in this thing, but it's gonna run out any moment now. Oh no, we couldn't clear it. My whole truck fell apart. It's actually dead now. The front drive shaft broke. So I'm gonna say goodbye to this truck and go back to this guy. We're gonna reset him and then we're gonna replace him with a different car. So I want something with front wheel drive only this time. So we'll go with an Ibishu Pessima. We'll get the 2.7 LX V6 Sport. That way, if we can move, at least we'll be able to move fast. And I'm pretty sure when we spawn this up, yeah, it puts it back on its wheels. And I think it's even stuck inside the building a little bit. So we'll free it from the building first. And then we can go ahead and tip it onto its side. So again, just try to grab it from the underside here and then roll it onto its side. And this one, I'm not sure if it'll stay on its side as easily as the truck. It looks like it actually will. That's good. I want to position it just like so. So you want to position it where the corner of the wall is behind the engine. That's what's important. So you could place it right in the middle like I'm doing here, or you could actually bring it back some, as long as you don't bring it back so much where the engine will get hit. Like right here, that's pushing it because that could smash into the engine, and when the engine gets smashed into, that breaks the drivability. So we're going to put it back where it's about in the middle, and then we got to find some nodes to grab. So this one looks pretty sturdy. We'll grab this one, and then we'll bring it to 1,000 in the same direction as before. And then over to the rear. That looks pretty sturdy. Over to 1,000. All right. And then we shall increase the strength gradually this time. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Everything's looking good so far. Lots of bending on this one. And no fuel tanks rupturing. No drive lines breaking. Everything should be good to go. Put it back onto its wheels. Oh, didn't quite get onto its wheels. Onto your wheels, you. And then, can it drive? Sort of. It can put the power to the wheels, but it's scraping the front bumper, isn't it? Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to save the vehicle how it currently sits, and then we're going to try to remove the front bumper without ruining everything. So, wah! Actually worked pretty well. Does it work now without scraping too much? It is still scraping hard with the front. You see, it is digging deep. So, can we try to like yank this upwards a little bit? Kind of to like bend just that part, but keep the bend in the vehicle? All right, that worked. This thing is decently drivable, looking like a red banana. I mean, I'm saying banana a lot, but that's what they look like. They look like bananas the way they curve, and I can't think of anything else that curves like that off the top of my head. Boomerang! It looks like a boomerang almost. There we go. There's something that's not a banana. Although it needs like a tribal paint job, right? Then it really looks like a boomerang. That's one thing no stock cars in BeamNG really have, is just a generic tribal paint job that looks kind of bad, but it would be perfect for like a street racer in Fast and the Furious, you know? This thing's actually more drivable than the pickup truck because nothing's scraping. I see a little bit of sparks every now and then, but it's not scraping enough to mess with you. Yes, you have terrible handling because the suspension geometry is all messed up, but in terms of overall drivability, it's fine. You just gotta know that it's not gonna handle too well and you'll be all right. So that is a complete success. Let's see what happens if we hit the curb with this thing because it is very low to the ground. Oh, it actually survived. I thought that might kind of crunch it up a little bit extra. Ooh, I bet if I was to just crash into a wall with this thing, it would kind of collapse onto itself. We got good enough of a vehicle to get up to speed to try that too. And the difference between this and the D-Series, the D-Series has a pretty strong frame that's able to survive that kind of stuff. This one doesn't have as thick of a frame, and once you bend it like this, it weakens it even more. So it's much more likely to bend in that kind of collision. Right now, though, it's driving kind of badly, so I'm going to reset it. And then we got to put it back onto its wheels, which we might be able to do right here, actually, if I just grab it from the corner. Yep, it's on its wheels now. It doesn't matter if it got damaged because I'm just going to load the setup anyways. And once we load it, I'm going to have to modify the front of the vehicle again because I know it's going to scrape. So we'll do the same thing as before. We tear the bumper off, and then we just yank this piece upwards a little bit and see if that works. All right, I think it worked. And we are good to go. And since I did all that work, let's save it right now so I never have to do that again. There we go. And now we just need to find a wall to crash this thing into. I want a nice flat wall to really crush it. So I'm going to have to drive around a little bit to find that setup. Because all these walls, yeah, they're flat, but I have to steer into them. I want one where I don't even have to steer into it. I just keep driving and I smash right into it. And I think if I know which way I'm going, I'll be able to find one to the left and then to the right. The one to the left will be easier just because it's a straight shot. And then the one to the right, I'm pretty sure I could get a much higher speed if I went to the top of the hill. Unfortunately, that's not the path I went. So we're going to go with this one straight ahead of us. Should be going about highway speeds, at least 60 miles per hour here. It's going to be about 65. And then here we go. Impact with some slow motion. Whoa. It bent it even more. That is ridiculous looking. I didn't think it would bend that much. Like, I knew it was going to bend, I guess, but just seeing the result is like, wow. Oh my goodness. We got to do this at a higher speed too, just to see what that looks like, don't we? But first, I got to see, will a jump fix the vehicle? So let's get it out of here, and it doesn't matter how violently we do that because all we do is hit load, and then the vehicle looks exactly like what I want it to look like. And we're going to go over here and do the big jump. At least it's the biggest one I could think of from this position. All the other bigger ones, I would have to go up the hill and then back down, which takes too long. This one's nice and fast, and we're going to see if it'll straighten out the vehicle at all. So here we go. This is what the vehicle looks like right now before takeoff. And then after landing, it might have straightened it out a little bit, actually. And we're going slow enough where we could actually stop this thing, I think. Not going quite as fast as we were when we had the D-Series. So then, let's test this a little bit more violently. We're just going to use the environment tab, and we're going to go negative Earth and then Earth. So it slams into the ground a little bit at a time. This, I'm going to actually separate the camera because I couldn't really see what was happening there. So here we go. Oh, that worked beautifully. It's almost flat. One more time and it's going to be flat. And it's surprisingly easy, as you're seeing, to make this vehicle become flat again. And it sits so low right now, it almost looks like a sports car, doesn't it? All right, now, we got to do the high-speed crash. I'm going to try something that might not work. I'm going to see what happens here. So first, we're going to take the vehicle out of there, and I'm going to reset it right here, okay? Then we load up the save damage. That way I don't have to pull out the vehicle out of that hole anymore. And we're gonna go over here to the right. Because I think if we go to the canal sewer area thing, or whatever it's supposed to be, I can't remember what it looks like, but I'm pretty sure there's a long straightaway over here. Yes, this is the correct direction to go. So we go into here, and then all I have to do is hope that there is a solid object that we can run into in one of these directions. I'll try going to the left and see if I see anything. Like right there, there's a solid object, but we're not going fast enough. So if I don't see anything, I can always double back to that, and we'll slam into that, and we should be able to go close to 100 miles per hour, I would think. If not, maybe even a little bit more. It just depends how much straightaway we got. Although I see one coming up, so we don't need to worry about that. And we're going to be going about 90 miles per hour, so it's close to 100. And we're going to smash into this and see what happens. Oh, wow, yeah. That whole front just collapsed in on itself, and the two wheels did basically touch each other for a second. It bent a little bit to the left because it wasn't a completely straight crash. You can see that wall is actually crooked a little bit, but the amount of damage is still spectacular. Just how bent the car is, it's crazy. Let me try to pull it out of here so you can get a better look at it. There we go. Now you can see just how much it bent. The whole engine bay is just completely messed up compared to the rest of the car. That is spectacular. And we'll go ahead and do one more of these, but this time we're going to use a vehicle with the engine behind you. We're going to use the SBR4. And we'll get the all-wheel drive twin turbo stage 2 because fast is always better. But when you get an SBR4, they don't have that much ground clearance. So I'm going to go ahead and increase the ground clearance on this vehicle. So to do that, we're going to first swap out the suspension parts. Right now it has the stage 2 front coilovers. We want the race ones. And normally you would think the race ones are going to be lower, right? And the answer is yes, the race ones are lower, but the race ones have more tunability. So I can get the race ones and I can jack up the suspension height and make the spring rate really high, which should make the vehicle have more ground clearance. So let's apply this and see what it looks like. That worked exactly how I wanted, especially on the rear. On the rear, you can see there's a ton of ground clearance back there. On the front, not as much, but it's still gonna help. So now let's go ahead and line up the vehicle just like we've done for all of the other ones. We park it right into the corner. And by the way, I'm just using this corner just because it's the closest one to the spawn. It does not need to be any specific corner. In fact, it might be interesting if you try the same thing using corners of different angles. If you could find a building that has like an extra steep corner, then you could probably bend it even more, which would be fun. And before I forget, I should reset the SBR4 because sometimes it's hard to figure out which nodes to grab on this vehicle. Like it's hard to know, is this the exhaust or is this the frame of the vehicle? I'm not really sure. I think this one's the frame. Let's find out if that's correct or not. So we'll pull this to about 1,000 newtons in this direction. And then over here, I know this one is actually the front bumper, but there's one that's like hidden behind it. That one is the frame, so we'll grab it from there. And then again, about out to 1,000 newtons. And then let's bend this vehicle. We're going to do this one nice and gradually. Oh, it's starting to lean over. If you notice the vehicle's going to fall over, then you do it fast. So that way it gets straightened out. And now it's perfect and ready to go. So here we go. Here goes the bend. And you know what? We're not even going to go to 100%. That looks like it's not going to bend anymore if you look at this from above because it's tapping the corner on both sides with the wheels. So we'll unbend this thing because more bending will just break drive shafts and stuff. So we still broke a drive shaft somehow. I was even being very careful and slowly and gradually undoing it. That's a shame. Oh well, we still got rear wheel drive though, so we'll be fine. Oh, also, when you do it like that where you don't go full force, it also makes it where the rear bumper isn't as pointy, so it won't scrape as much. Because you noticed before how sometimes that rear bumper would scrape. I was hoping that would make this one not scrape, but it still looks like it wants to scrape. I'm going to save the vehicle though, and then just teleport it over here and see if it's because it was on a uneven ground or not. So here we go. Now we cannot get traction, unfortunately. We need to fix the rear of the vehicle. It's not actually the bumper, it's the frame is bent outwards. So how do we fix that? Well, I do have an idea. Will it work? Well, let's find out. First thing we're going to do is we're going to grab a very sturdy spot of the vehicle and we're going to pull this thing out to like 2,000 newtons or so. And then we're going to do the same on the opposite side of the vehicle. So I'm trying to find the same piece, which means I'm going to move this a little bit just to get the bumper out the way. So that looks like it's the same piece basically. And then we move this out to about 2,000 newtons as well. Although the other one's not exactly 2,000 anymore because the vehicle's position changed, but it should still be close. Yeah, 18 is close enough. So then we grab the corner that's all pointed. We're going to pull this thing up to about the same, maybe a little bit less, 1,400. And now we're going to increase the node strength and see if this will fix the bend. That looks like it actually worked. That looked like it worked really, really well. Okay, the pointed part is gone. So now the wheels can make contact with the ground and we can move a little bit. Not that much, but it's enough to get going. That's all that matters to me is, can we get going? And the answer is yes. Can we steer? The answer is not really, because the front is scraping so much. You'll notice the front wheel is not actually making contact with the ground. You can see just barely right there. You see the sun sticking through it? That's because it's not making contact. So we could try to modify the front up a little bit too. And I'll save the vehicle before I do this next modification, just in case it goes terribly wrong. Try that again. Just pull that bumper hard. Ooh, that bumper does not want to come off. Come on. I am at 100%. No, I'm not. For some reason, the 100% no strength wasn't there. That's why it wasn't coming off. And then this one, we'll try to be lazy. We'll just flick it, which might work because we don't need to do it as much. And yes, it did. All right, so now we have steering. And I think we even have a little bit better acceleration because we're not scraping in the front. Apparently, we're going about 40 miles per hour, which might be about accurate. It feels more like 30 maybe, but it's close. Cornering is not good. Cornering is not good. Hey, it made it though. What a great looking vehicle. If they sold these new on the lot like this, I would buy 20. No, I take that back. Actually, I would get 40 of them because this thing crashes a lot. So you'd probably need about 20 of them just to get to the grocery store and then another 20 to get home. So I would buy 40 cars just to be able to do one single trip to a location and back to my house. But it would be totally worth it because it is such a beautiful car. Especially when you compare it to what it looked like initially. It was terrible. This one kind of looks like a crossover, and everybody loves crossovers, right? Well, I don't, but the general population, they love crossovers, and the suspension on this thing totally looks like a crossover's. And I feel like this thing is starting to struggle a little bit because the clutch is overheating. Like, the acceleration doesn't quite feel right. You see, it's shifting into 6th gear in automatic mode for no real reason, and we can't accelerate anymore. That's because the clutch is done. It didn't just overheat, it melted. And we cannot do anything. But we have arrived back at where we started, so I guess that's some sort of achievement, right? It only took a couple of cars and we ended up right back home, basically. So I'll reset this, and then I want to crush it just like we did the Ibishu Pessima earlier. Except this time, I hope we do it even faster than before, and hopefully we'll be able to hit it on a straight target so it doesn't bend all crooked, and it'll bend right in the middle, nice and symmetrically. Oh, that's a little crash. I thought we'd be able to clear it, but we were just bouncing too much. You can't steer when the wheels are in the air. So there should be enough room to get up to speed, and we can be able to crash into the pillar that is directly ahead of us, which I think is flat. So we'll save the position, load up the vehicle, and we are good to go. The only question is, how fast can we get this thing to go before it has issues? Like, the clutch is already overheating somehow. We've literally driven like a couple hundred feet and the clutch is overheating. So there's the target though. We are perfectly lined up. We're only going to be going about 60 miles per hour, but it is a flat target. And watch that bend. Okay, it's not flat still. It looks flat when you're driving up on it, but it is a little bit sideways. Not as much as the other one, just a little bit it looks like. Either way though, the car is what we're looking at now, and the outcome is magnificent. It really has a wheelbase of about 3 feet. So that's going to do it for this video. Until next time, this has been WhyBeAre, and remember, if you like or dislike this video, I will know. I can tell based on the bend of the vehicle. So do the right thing, and I'll see you next time.